Welcome back to the show. You want to know what's coming? Then somebody roll that beautiful intro.
Digital Perspectives with Brad Kimes. Come on in.
Welcome back to the show. You can follow us on X, YouTube, and DigPerspectives.com for exclusive content. Right now, look at this. $4.18 trillion market cap for crypto. The market's up 2.7% after $100 billion has flooded into this market. Yes, that's right. Yeah, quietly, $100 billion snuck into this market, and Bitcoin's 120,300 plus because of it. Ethereum now $4,600 plus because of it. Shout out to the VCs pumping the hell out of those bags. Remember, just for common knowledge, Ethereum is backed by CCP Wanzhang China. So just so you know, $3.28. Number 3 spot is XRP. Now we're up 2.7 on the 24, but we're up 11.6 on the 7-day. Like I said, you can see the pressure building back in the market here because now over $100 billion has snuck back in here in the last 24 hours, it looks like. So watch out, head on a swivel, ranging between 316 and 329. We're at the top side of that range. We will keep an eye on it, which means there's no better time to tell you about the iTrustCapital offerings that are out here today, which is one, IRAs, traditional raw SEP. Look, whatever you're looking for in IRAs, they're not good at doing it. They're the best at doing it, okay? And that is just a fact, Jack. You can just check that out for yourself. I don't even need to go on about that. I've been with them 6 years, and they're amazing. I got hacked once, and I didn't even bother checking my iTrustCapital account. You know why? Because I knew it couldn't be hacked. It's an IRA. Right. Let's just take it from there. Right. Well, that's exactly what iTrustCapital has done. They've taken it from there and they said, well, what if we wanted to offer a solution outside of the IRA offering? And that's exactly what the premium custody account is. But then they went one step further on top of that and said, what if we make it a closed loop system so they can put their money in crypto in, they can trade in all the assets that they want inside the platform. But when they go out, let's make them go out to cash to their checking account. That way we could help remove the attack vector from the crypto space, and everybody is threatened by that, right? We all have clicked on something we shouldn't have, answered a phone call, maybe almost gave critical information, or maybe you did, right? Or maybe you just clicked on the wrong email link. I've been here, and I know a lot of you have been here. And if you haven't been here, I'm happy you haven't been here. But if you want a situation for yourself to where you could put your long-term bag in here and make sure that it doesn't happen to you, that's exactly what iTrustCapital has created with the PCA. So don't mess around. And they've just recently added where you can set your limit, stop, and buy orders, I believe, too. So make sure you check that out as well. New things coming all the time. iTrustCapital won't stop. All you got to do is go to iTrustCapital.com/XRPArmy or just click the link at the top of the description box. You can't miss it. Take a look at this. Oh boy. Well, we got to talk about something, boy. I'm going to tell you a story that is 100% true about how much the Bitcoin maxis hate us. But it's not Stellar, because Stellar is our friend, ladies and gentlemen. Take a listen.
Last thing for you that I gotta ask you, what's up with the beef and rivalry between XLM and XRP? What's going on there?
There is none.
Oof. No beef at all. No beef at all. So I think I actually have good friends at Ripple. Not going to mention them by name right now, but yeah. Look, Jed McCaleb, founder of Stellar, was also the founder of Ripple, and so in the early days, that created a lot of mostly like Twitter tension, to be honest. So it's like on social because people get wacky on social.
He's absolutely right, but not behind the scenes. They have a great relationship, and I love hearing that because we're better together. You know what? Even Vitalik Buterin knows that Ripple is the internet of value. Listen to him say it.
You know, people talk a lot about things, talk about cryptocurrency 2.0 being like the internet of value. We're not the internet of value. Ripple is the internet of value.
There you have it. So, there's no confusion from Vitalik Buterin. And that's exactly why the Bitcoin maxis hate us so much. Let me tell you, in planning XRP Las Vegas 26, I can tell you that Bitcoin Vegas is some of the dirtiest, nastiest people I've ever dealt with in my life indirectly. Let me tell you why. Because we wanted to have XRP Las Vegas back to Bitcoin Vegas in a solidarity move to bring this space together, not overlapping the dates, not interfering with their conference whatsoever. And the property at hand had no problem with us being there. And then Bitcoin Vegas said, you know what? Let them wait a couple weeks and then we'll turn them down and tell them they can't be here. And they threw a fit and then pushed us out of the property so we could be, as a move of solidarity, to bring this space together at the same property and venue right after Bitcoin's conference would end. Like I said, as a show of solidarity. But this just shows you the level of fear from Bitcoin Maxis, because it's not coming from us. I don't see XRP people attacking Bitcoin people. What I see is Bitcoin Maxis attacking XRP and then XRP holders responding. And you know what? I don't have a problem with it because I'm not a chump. And I got news for you. They're the chumps. And the reality is that you can play this game as long as you want. First, they ignore you. Then they fight you. Then they laugh at you. Then they fight you, and then you win. Well, they're fighting us, and we're about to win because we're not going anywhere. And here's where it really gets good. The short-sighted maxis out here are going to find out when legislation becomes law and then the laws get put into play, because there's always a 180 days or a year or 2-year window between passing a law, signing it into law, and then having it take effect, right? So we got that threshold and the maxis got that threshold. So you can go on and run your mouths as long as you want to. But I tell you what, when the laws become the way the world operates, you're going to need all those words back. I can tell you that, because you're not going to be able to do this forever because you don't have the utility on your side. So you better pray. And if you're not a praying person, you better pray that all these countries pick up on holding Bitcoin so they can get the citizens of the world to pay down the government's debt. Because that's the chump you've been turned into. President Trump understands in order to keep the US dollar as the world reserve currency, you have to know 2 things. Let's hear what he says here.
Many Americans are unaware that behind the scenes, the technical backbone of the financial system is decades out of date, many, many years out of date. You know that. Paul and others are straightening it out, but payments and money transfers are costly and take days or even weeks to clear. Under this bill, the entire ancient system will be eligible for a 21st century upgrade using the state-of-the-art crypto technology. Who would have thought we would have been saying that 2 years after many Americans?
Exactly. And he knows 2 things here. He who owns the gold makes the rules, but he who owns and controls the world's payment rails runs the world. And this president knows it. And this is where Ripple, the XRP Ledger come into play, Stellar and XLM2, and a handful of others, I'm sure. Now I want you to listen to this. Shout out to GOAT DAI, Catherine Austin Fitz.
The Secretary of Treasury and the Chairman of the Federal Reserve have been working closely on this legislation for months. And what you see is they're basically taking the amount that the Fed has been buying in treasuries and they're planning to move it to stable coins. So they're getting Fed. The Fed's dumping, you know, as treasuries roll over, their position is going down, down, down. Okay. Right. So essentially, the Trump administration is helping the Fed get out of the treasury market. It's beautiful. Yeah. The Secretary of Treasury and the Chairman of the Fed.
Yeah, they're helping the Fed get out of the treasury market. It's beautiful. It is beautiful. It's exactly what I've been saying. The Fed has been cut away from the actual system to die as a bloated pig because it is a private central bank. It is not a branch of the government. That's why, right? This is why the Fed doesn't want to cooperate with interest rate cuts. The Fed know they're being cut out of the new digital on-chain economy. And soon enough, the Fed won't have any other option but to comply in all areas because they're getting ready to be handicapped for good. That's why I tell you Ripple is the Fed 2.0. On stage at XRP Las Vegas. I tell you what, I love talking to this guy. The Honorable Christian Carlo, he's so smart, he's so sharp. I want you to listen to this conversation we had at the last XRP Las Vegas on stage and tell me we're not river dancing on top of this thing.
They're floating a lot of ideas, Chris, about how to acquire some of these digital assets. Are you hearing anything about the different suggestions on that? And there's obviously, I've talked about this, I know other people have floated the idea. Is it out of the realm of possibility to consider that there would be a new bond issuance of digital assets in the future? Not next Tuesday, but in the future.
Oh, I think it's more than a possibility. Yeah. I think you're going to see it at multiple levels. I think you're going to see it at the corporate level. I think you'll see it at municipal levels. And I think ultimately you'll see it at the national level. And I also think that one of the things that really bothered this president about the private administration, government sees crypto routinely as part of law enforcement. In fact, they're not even able to currently quantify all the crypto that is held by government because some of it is at the state and municipal level from routine, police stops. And the prior administration would at least, what was at the federal level, they would sell off routinely. And it annoys this president they did, though, because that they do that, because had they held on to it, we might be able to pay down some of the national debt. So he's committed to holding on to the seized crypto, and that's something that doesn't need congressional authorization. They can just do that as a routine matter, and it's across the board in terms of different crypto. Beyond that, they're also thinking about how do we create something that's more like a reserve? The difference between a stockpile you just collect. A reserve is something that you actually actively utilize. So our strategic petroleum reserve is something that is not just used. You may think it's only used if we have a shortage of oil, we release some oil. No, it's actually used strategically and for monetary policy purposes, because the dollar is tied to the global price of oil. If our economic adversaries, like OPEC, decide to reduce production to drive up the price, we can sell from the reserve to counter that and reduce the price, and therefore control the exchange rate for dollars. So we use the strategic reserve. Well, when you've got the BRICS countries talking about creating a rival currency to the dollar and perhaps pegging it to physical commodities like gold or digital commodities, then it makes sense for us to actually reserve that to do the same thing we do with strategic petroleum. So that's very much, again, an earlier panel talked about these coming rivals to the dollar. There's no question that there is desire amongst many countries, the BRICS countries and others, to come up with a rival, but that is why the United States is stockpiling gold. That is why the United States is now stockpiling crypto, because they're aware of those threats and they are committed to preserving the dollar. Now, we've got to get Congress on that same track. The White House is doing their job to cut spending. We've got to get Congress to do it. And if any indication, the recent debates over the budget bill and the tax bill are not encouraging about Congress's ability to live off the credit card.
And what's interesting is when you talk about the oil comparison here, in the creation of this digital asset stockpile, they can sell the assets out of there. And I think some people have mistakenly looked at that as a deficiency to that. But what I saw is that is just like oil. They can sell oil. So if they acquire these digital assets and over time they can sell them, they could price control these assets in question just as they do oil.
And countries have been doing this since the dawn of time.
Right. And see, this is what Bitcoin maxis haven't figured out yet, right? But don't you worry, because time is going to unfold unfavorably for them if they don't find their footing very quickly. Take a listen to this here.
Unlike our competitor, we have no long-term rev share deal with any of our distribution partner.
That is World Liberty Financial explaining how their USD1 stablecoin is more profitable than Circle is right now, because we've gone over this a lot on the channel. Circle has to split their profit on USDC by 60%, 50 to 60% with Coinbase. And that makes another problem. So if the interest rate cuts are coming in September, that is going to squash every private issuer of stablecoins profit margin. However, it's going to devastate Circle because they have to split their profit margin already with Coinbase. Then there's another issue. And what is the other issue? The other issue is the underlying understanding from every other crypto platform and exchange that if I offer USDC, Circle and Coinbase are going to be elevated in profits. But if I'm a crypto exchange, why would I ever want to carry USDC knowing that it's helping to fill the bags of my competitor, Coinbase? You got a two-sided problem right there, and whichever way you flip that coin, it's still an issue. That's why we're moving to something like this, where all the countries are representing a stable coin and or CBDC on something like the XRP Ledger and the Stellar network. Excuse me. This is where we're going here. And when you can have representation of the world's money on the ledger, what did I used to say years ago on this channel? It ain't money unless the world agrees that it's money. That's how I knew before I was a YouTuber that they had to pre-allocate XRP around the world to the biggest players, because it isn't money unless everybody's holding it and agrees that it's money. You can't just say, hey, I've got this thing and it's money now. It takes at least two, and it only really takes hold if the rest of the world joins in. And that's what I believe we're on our way to finding out. The new monetary system does require a foundational bed like RippleNet and Stellar Network. This is a discussion about the G20 using these networks. That's what this is. It's not my idea, it's theirs. We're just reporting on it. And don't sleep on the fact that Bo Hines is stepping down and going back to the private sector as Patrick Witt will succeed him. And Patrick Witt has really deep ties with DARPA and blockchain infrastructure being the next focus of how to control what is going on in the world. Remember Jason Lowry's mind-blowing book, Software, where he argues that the next way we'll fight wars isn't through bombs, but block rewards and control of global narratives, nations battling for economic dominance via crypto? Yes. Patrick Witt comes from the Department of Defense, DARPA, engineering, all of this. Are you kidding me? Defense Innovation Unit. I'll tell you what the Bitcoin maxis are missing about XRP and the ledger. It's foundational infrastructure. It's not just another asset competing out here for survival. It is going to be the highway that the world chooses to run on. The world as in all the repositories of the world, all the legitimate financial legacy partners of the world. That's who will be using these trusted protocols. That's why we were sued. There's a much bigger reason as to why Bo Hines is out and Patrick Witt is in. While you're reading this, remember the XRP Ledger is an infrastructure that meets the level of a public good. Patrick Witt coming to this executive director role is about the United States dominating Web3, and it may just mean Ripple and the XRP Ledger could find themselves with a systemically important designation, just like the DTCC, the CLS, and CME, and others. They're all systemically important. And that, I believe, is the next step after a banking charter for Ripple and the Ledger. That's how I see it. That's how I see it. Systemically important, where we're going to the new financial system, and getting that banking license and a Fed master account is the new arm of the Federal Reserve 2.0. Hello, that's how I got it. Looking at XLM, Ed Greg Crypto says there's a breakout coming for XLM Stellar. Watch out. Boom. We could be headed for 79 cents to $1 plus. I got to show them both because I believe they're both key players in the new digital on-chain economy. XRP looking here, need time to break that 333 critical level and then rise through 444 and then 585 on our way up the mountain. Not financial advice from me or anyone else. We're going into the freedom zone. Today, we're going to talk about manifestation and reaching the best version of yourself that you can possibly be, something I strive for all the time, and certainly I've come up short even today. But it doesn't mean I stopped working on it. It doesn't mean we all should stop working on it. In fact, we should probably double down as much as we can, right? But we're going in right now, not financial advice from me or anyone else. I hope you will join us. Click the link underneath any video to join us in Patreon, YouTube, or on X. But it's the same price, same perks. It costs almost nothing to be in here to support the channel, and you get all your daily videos with 0 Google ads and extra content as well. So come on in.